In the early noughties, intimidating Celtic defender Bobo Balde struck fear and terror into the hearts of the opposition in stadiums up and down Scotland. However, despite being a fan favourite, the fearsome and formidable centre-back spent the latter part of his Celtic career languishing on the bench or rotting in the reserves. Why? Bobo Balde was born in 1975 in Marseille to Ghanaian parents. One of 12 children, he grew up idolising tough and talented Marseille defenders like Marcel Desailly and Basile Boli. In 1994, at the age of 19, he joined Marseille and made 60 appearances for the reserves over 3 seasons. After failing to impress enough to break his way into the first team, he was loaned to second division club Mulhouse in 1997. Balde suffered the pain of relegation in his single season there and moved to another Division 2 outfit, Cannes. Here he fared a little better, managing 4 goals in 29 appearances and finishing 11th. In 1999, he left Marseille, having failed to make a single first-team appearance for them, and joined Toulouse. He helped them to gain promotion to Ligue 1 in his first season there. He stayed one more year, making 24 appearances, scoring 1 goal before getting his career-defining, life-altering move. In the summer of 2001, fresh off of winning a domestic treble in his first season in charge, Hoops boss Martin O'Neill was in need of defensive reinforcements. The Northern Irish manager liked to play with 3 at the back, but his captain of the previous year, Tom Boyd, was past his best and would be turning 36 during the upcoming campaign. That left him with the Swedes Johan Mjällby, Belgian Just Valgarin, and homegrown utility man Jackie McNamara as the only high-quality options, with Oliver Tabili and Stephen Craney as somewhat reliable backup. This was far too shallow for a team that was to compete on 4 fronts. So O'Neill flew to Toulouse to speak to the 25-year-old Balde, telling him that he had to come to Celtic Park. When Bobo arrived, he was shown videotapes about Celtic and its history. His encounter with the passionate and enthusiastic O'Neill had convinced him that the East End of Glasgow was the place for him to play his football. Balde was a quintessential Martin O'Neill defender. Tall and strong, he was built more for rugby than football. What's more, he was fast and aggressive in the tackle and an excellent header of the ball. Lacking in fitness, the fans had to patiently wait 7 games until they got to see their new man in action. A glorious, long, raking assist for Lubo Moravcik on his debut got everyone excited about the quality that he could bring. However, it quickly became apparent that Balde was extremely rough around the edges, and even in the highly physical Scottish League, his wild, lunging, 2-footed, frequently mistimed challenges made him very unpopular amongst opposition players and fans. A retroactive 2-match ban for an off-the-ball elbow on Paul Fenwick of Hibernian had many convinced that the Ghanaian would be considered too much of a liability and jettisoned by O'Neill. The manager, though, knew that there was a player in there, and a bloody good one at that, so he did what all good managers do, and he coached and improved the player, eking out more of the good stuff and trying to snuff out as much of the bad as possible. A glorious header against Rangers in the Scottish Cup final saw Balde score his 3rd goal of the season to put the boys 2-1 up and send the Celtic fans at Hampden delirious. It was short-lived though, as Rangers mounted a stunning comeback, sparked by a wonderful Barry Ferguson free kick which had been awarded after Bobo Balde clumsily clobbered Lorenzo Amoruso. An agonising last-minute Lovenkrands goal saw them clinch a famous victory. Balde had finished the season strongly, ending up with his first piece of silverware in the form of the Scottish League title, and he really built upon that in the 02-03 season, when he became an ever-present in the heart of the Celtic defence. With his timing greatly improved and his tackling as strong as ever, Balde was a big reason why Celtic had the best backline in the league that year, despite suffering the significant handicap of being without the injured Mjällby for the first half of the campaign. His daunting presence in the defence and powerful capabilities in the air from set pieces meant that opponents at both ends of the field hated to play against Balde, no doubt shuddering at the thought of facing off against him. The Celtic fans were well aware of how terrifying their defender was, and the now iconic chant of "Bobo's gonna get ye" began to ring around the stands as a warning to the enemy that Balde was not to be fucked with, as if they didn't already know. That year was one of the closest and most tense title fights with bitter city rivals Rangers, as they were literally inseparable the whole campaign. This led to the rare and astonishing situation of them being equal on virtually every metric going into the last day: wins, draws, losses, points and goal difference. Celtic, however, had conceded 1 less with 26, and Rangers had scored 1 more with 95. It really was on a knife edge heading into the final round of fixtures, and both teams dished up a day filled with drama. Celtic were thumping Kilmarnock 4-0, and Rangers were walloping Dunfermline 5-1. A late Mikel Arteta penalty broke Celtic hearts as the SPL trophy went to Ibrox. The boys had suffered further homegrown heartache in the form of a shock loss to Inverness in the quarters of the Scottish Cup and a controversial and brutal 2-1 loss to Rangers in the the League Cup. The bitter pill of failing to secure a single domestic honour was somewhat sweetened by the team's European exploits as they embarked on a thrilling and legendary run to the UEFA Cup final, and the impassable Bobo Balde was once more a key figure in getting them there. The considerable attacking powers of Dwight Yorke, Andy Cole and Damien Duff were kept at bay by the dominant Baldé as Celtic recorded a clean sheet against Blackburn in the second round. A talented Celta Vigo team who finished 4th in La Liga that season provided a sterner test, and the boys needed away goals to get through to the last 16. Awaiting them there was a Stuttgart side who sat second in the Bundesliga. Celtic stuck 3 past them at Parkhead, but Baldé and the defence struggled in Germany to contain Alexander Hleb, Kevin Kurjani and Christian Tiefer as they threw away the 2-goal lead they had garnered after only 15 minutes. Their great work in the first leg was enough to secure safe passage to the quarters though, with a 5-4 aggregate win. The last 8 saw them face undoubtedly their toughest test yet in the form of Gerard Houlier's Liverpool. Ballon d'Or winner Michael Owen had 3 goals in 4 UEFA Cup matches and was sure to give Baldé a headache, right? Well, no. Big Bobo and the boys had him, Juve, Gerard et al. On toast as they roared into the semis with a 3-1 aggregate win. Portuguese mid-tablers Boa Vista were well organised and stubborn. A Yus Valgaeren own goal and a Henrik Larsson missed penalty saw the home leg finish 1-1, with their final hopes hanging in the balance. Celtic played well below their best in Portugal and relied on a late goal from talisman Henrik Larsson to save them and send them into the final.
Henrik Larsson again!
Jose Mourinho's Porto were to be their adversaries in the Estadio La Cartuja in Seville. The crowd was comprised mainly of Celtic supporters who helped to whip up an electric atmosphere. The first half was quite equal and simmering nicely as both teams were probing and testing the defences of the other. Porto perhaps looked the most likely to make something happen, with the magic of Deco starting to show at the end of the first period, and indeed he was involved in the opening goal as Darlai struck on the stroke of half-time to stun Celtic. Celtic came out on fire and Henrik Larsson rose to meet a Gats cross less than 2 minutes after the restart to restore parity.
Henrik Larsson, the king of the kings.
7 minutes later, a poor Baldé clearance and a mistimed Valgaeren slide tackle allowed Deco to play a perfect pass to Dmitry Alenichev, who slotted past Douglas. It took only 3 minutes before Larsson was at it again, powering home a free header from Alan Thompson's corner. The game ebbed and flowed until the 80th minute, where Baldé was shown a yellow for this challenge on Deco. Although Bobo got the ball, I think the yellow was probably the right decision as he went in with some force with his studs up and endangered the player. Just 5 minutes into the first period of extra time, and Baldé showed that he hadn't learned his lesson by going in for another wild and reckless challenge, this time missing the ball completely. He was shown a second yellow and sent off. It took only 10 minutes for Porto to make the numerical advantage count as Darlai pounced on some sloppy goalkeeping to net what would be the winner. I personally remember how gut-wrenching it was to watch this final when I was younger, but I didn't blame Big Bobo for the result back then, and I still hold no ill will against him. Obviously it was less than ideal to go down to 10 at such a crucial time, but these things happen, and that aggression, passion and fighting spirit had always been a part of his game, and is why the fans took him into their hearts so quickly. As proof that nobody blamed the big defender, he was the recipient of the inaugural Celtic Player of the Year award, which was chosen that season by way of a fan vote. Baldé and the boys put the sickening disappointment of Seville behind them to scorch back to the summit of Scottish football in scintillating fashion, as they finished a whopping 17 points ahead of second place Rangers and scored 105 goals, and once again had the best defence in the league, letting in only 25. Celtic also won the Scottish Cup that season. Once more, Baldé had a big part to play in the team keeping so many clean sheets, as he put in a string of composed, commanding and authoritative performances. The pinnacle of his season came in the UEFA Cup, where a mouth-watering tie with Frank Rijkaard's Barcelona provided the perfect stage to display his towering defensive talents. For my money, he was the best player on the park, as he pocketed the likes of Ronaldinho, Xavi and Javier Saviola to help shut out the Blaugrana as Celtic recorded a famous victory courtesy of an Alan Thompson goal.
An all-encompassing challenge from Baldé. Bobo Balde says, who is this Ronaldinho guy? That's well read and well cut out by Bobo Balde. It's Baldé again on Gabri. It's another crucial stop by Baldé.
The yellow card he picked up in that match saw him suspended for the return leg at the Nou Camp. Baldé and the Celtic support showed just how much love and respect they have for each other, as Big Bobo took in the 0-0 draw in the stands alongside the spectators. In the summer of 2004, Johan Mayabi left the club, and Celtic really seemed to miss his organisation and defence, as a cloud of nervousness and uncertainty gathered over the backline. Bobo in particular struggled and came in for a fair amount of stick. A clumsy own goal against Hibs in a 2-2 draw, a poor and bizarre decision to leave the ball for keeper David Marshall in the 3-2 home loss to Aberdeen, a weak clearance at Ibrox to cause chaos in the box, leading Celtic to concede a penalty and go on to lose 2-0. These were all critical errors in what was another close title battle with Rangers, which went right to the final day. Rangers were 2 points behind in second before kick-off, and a Celtic win would have been enough to see the SPL title make its way to Parkhead, and the helicopter containing the trophy looked to be heading to Fir Park when Sutton netted after half an hour. When Natural Novo put Rangers ahead on the hour mark, things became decidedly more tense for the profligate Celtic, and with just 2 minutes of regular time remaining, Scott McDonald scored a goal which is forever etched in my memory and caused the helicopter to change direction towards Edinburgh, chesting the ball down and hooking it over his shoulder into the top corner. Bobo Balde was the man closest to him as it happens, but this was a moment of pure genius. I don't think he or anyone else could have done anything to stop it. McDonald added a second 2 minutes later to seal Celtic's agony and consign Baldé to another dramatic title defeat. As it happens, that season was actually the last year of Baldé's contract at Parkhead, and in January 2005 it looked as if he was heading down south to the Premier League with an offer from Middlesbrough on the table. Injuries to his already trembling and vulnerable defence spooked Martin O'Neill, who inexplicably made a 30-year-old Baldé the club's highest paid player, signing him up to a 4.5-year deal worth nearly £30,000 a week. That deal contained a get-out clause which would have allowed him to leave if another club came in for him within 6 months, and Bayern Munich maintained a real interest, having watched him on several occasions, with general manager Uli Holness having this to say: "Baldé hasn't dropped out of our reckoning, in fact anything but. He is very strong in the air, and both Felix Magath and I were impressed with him. We plan to watch him again. We are on the lookout for a good central defender." In the end, nothing concrete materialised, and Baldé remained at Celtic as the man who brought him to the club, Martin O'Neill, left to take care of his sick wife. If Baldé had wanted to make a good impression with new gaffer Gordon Strachan, then he failed miserably. A horror challenge in a pre-season match with Leicester showed how dire the consequences of Baldé's tough tackling could be, as 17-year-old prospect James Wesolowski was left with a broken leg. Leicester boss Craig Levein condemned Baldé's tackle, branding it disgraceful, disgusting, malicious and intentional. Strachan may have defended his player, but Baldé's start to life under his new manager was about to go from bad to worse. He, along with the whole Celtic defence, were universally slammed for contributing to one of the worst defeats in recent history, as they were pumped 5-0 by Art Media Bratislava in the second round of Champions League qualifying. They could only score 4 at home and were eliminated. Despite roaring to a league and cup double by a 17-point margin over second-placed Hearts, Gordon Strachan's Celtic defence was significantly leakier and creakier than it was under his predecessor, as they conceded 37 goals, and Baldé, who was clearly missing the presence of the man who got the best out of him, Martin O'Neill, looked short of confidence, full of mistakes, and a bit of a bomb scare at the back. The lowest point came in a 2-1 victory over Livingston, where Baldé dallied on the ball and played a poor pass which led to Livingston's goal. Bobo looked really shell-shocked after this, something that was made worse when a small section of the support started booing him. Strachan had apparently seen enough to know that Bobo wasn't the man for him. In came Gary Caldwell, and thus began Baldé's 3-year battle with the club. From 2006 to 2008, Baldé made just 12 first-team appearances, and in 2009 he did not feature at all, as he was banished to the reserves and the under-19s. He did struggle with injuries during this time, the worst of which being a broken leg sustained in 2006, which kept him out for nearly a year, and exacerbated. Peter Lowell apparently summoned Baldé to his office on the last day of 2007's summer transfer window, after Baldé had refused to leave on a 3-month loan to Sunderland. Big Bobo, the man who had negotiated his own contract renewal, knew his own worth, and told Peter Lowell, "You are the CEO of Celtic. I am the CEO of Bobo Balde." He looked set to leave for Birmingham in 2008, but according to Alex McLeish, the deal fell through because Bobo was unwilling to sign a confidentiality agreement. Celtic naturally denied these claims, but it was reported widely in the press, and I believe there is some truth to it. The kind of dirt Baldé might have had on Celtic that was worth them paying 30 grand a week to keep secret is a mystery. Throughout this whole debacle, Baldé retained the support of the majority of the fans, who were of the opinion that he should have been playing more regularly, as the defence under Strachan continued to flatter to deceive. This was evidenced in one of Baldé's last ever games for the club, in 2007, when he was given the rarest of starts against Dundee United in the league. From the moment he appeared for the warm-up to him leaving the pitch, the away fans cheered his every touch as he put in a flawless man-of-the-match performance. In a display of iron will, Baldé sought out the entirety of his contract, a deal which must go down as one of the worst financial decisions in the club's history, and left at the end of the 08-09 season. Bobo Balde made 206 appearances across 8 seasons at Celtic. He won 5 league titles, 3 Scottish Cups and 2 2 League Cups. Despite his obvious flaws like poor positioning, bizarre decision making, recklessly dangerous challenges and occasionally terrible ball control, on his day, Big Bobo was the best defender in the country and he always gave 100% and put his heart and soul into making the boys' backline the most feared and ferocious in the league. The impact he made on the team and the supporters can still be felt today, a point which was proved when homegrown hero Kieran Tierney revealed that Bobo Balde was his idol growing up. I just loved the way he played. He didn't take any nonsense. Defensively, he was absolutely brilliant. If I had one footballer as a teammate, I'd pick Bobo Balde. He was my favourite player growing up and he was my hero, so I would go for him.